everybody, this is Michelle Fox and welcome back to The Simple Quilter. Today's topic is how to quilt on a budget. How exciting. I do want to mention the two projects behind me. The one here is just a chevron baby quilt, and this is just another panel. Sometimes I put panels up on my design wall to look at them, and sometimes it gives me inspiration for what I'm going to do with them. So I'm just going to step to the side a little bit so you can see these. Okay, so today's topic is how to quilt on a budget, and we're going to be focusing on how to buy quilt fabric on a budget. Now, everybody's budget is different, so the word budget means something a little bit different to each and every one of us, and that's okay. My quilt budget may be higher or lower than my friends' quilt budgets. But regardless, for me, I try to stay within my quilt budget. Now, one thing that's important for me when I'm buying quilt fabric or supplies is I typically buy the highest quality that I can afford, especially when it comes to quilt fabric and quilt thread. Those are two areas that I don't really skimp on. Now, when I first started quilting, I did buy cheaper fabrics, and I used threads that had been passed down to me from my mom, and some of them probably had belonged to my grandmother. But I learned pretty quickly that that's really not the way to go. When I make a quilt for somebody, that quilt, I want it to hold up to being washed a lot and used a lot, and old threads become brittle, and less expensive fabrics that aren't really what I consider quilt shop quality cotton fabrics will fade quicker and wear out quicker. So those are two things that are super important to me when I'm purchasing, again, quilt fabric and quilt supplies. Now, I've kind of divided my talk a little bit up into different categories. And the first category is where you can find free fabric. Yes, free fabric. It is out there. Now, it may not be in super large quantities, but there is free fabric out there. Now, the first source can come from your quilt friends. In my second video on panel quilts, I showed how to do overlapping borders, and those panels and the coordinating fabrics had been given to me by a friend. They were excellent quality. It was a Northcott fabric. I love the feel of the fabric. The fabric was great to work with. And then sometimes I give my friends and sometimes I give my friends fabric. If there's something that I just really don't like very much or I'm not fond of, then I'll pass those on to my friends. Or sometimes we'll swap fabrics. I may need a pink or a purple and say, hey, do you have these? Is there any color you're needing? And we'll just swap fabrics. So the fabric at one point in time did cost something, but at the current time, you know, it's basically free because you're not having to purchase anything. Okay, now there are other people who try to get rid of fabrics that they've accumulated. Maybe they're downsizing. That's common within the quilters in our quilt guild. When they're going to move from a house down to an apartment, then they have to get rid of their stuff. Now, another way you can use free fabric is to participate in community service projects. For example, our local quilt guild does a lot of makes quilts for the community, and they have a Quilt of Valor program. So you can go and sew on those sew days and use their fabric. Of course, you don't get to keep it, but you can definitely go sew with the fabric. So that's an option, and that's fun to get together with other quilters, so that is an option. Another big source of free fabric for those who have a stash and scrap bins are just those. Use your scraps up, pull from your stash. That fabric, the money's spent, the money's gone, and that's a free source of fabric. There's also another free source of fabric that we have right in our own home. There's old t-shirts. Now, lots of people have made t-shirt quilts, and they just, pull the quilts out of their kids' closets or their own closets, and they make t-shirts out of them. And they are fun and exciting quilts to make. Another thing you can do, you can use old cotton shirts. You can make a memory quilt. For example, I have a bunch of shirts that were my mother's. They're 100% cotton shirts, and I've been wanting to make a memory quilt out of those. So that's basically a free source of fabric. One of my friends gave me a huge supply of denim, and I've made 2 or 3 denim quilts out of what she gave me, plus I have it all cut up and stored nicely so that if I want to make another one, I have access to that. And also some of my family members have donated old blue jeans, so denim is an option for you also, and that is all free sources of fabric. Now the next category I want to talk about is one that I'm going to title cheap fabric. And in the cheap fabric category, I'm not talking about cheap as in quality cheap. I'm talking about cheap as in inexpensive cheap. What I consider as cheap fabric is any fabric that's from $1 to $3 a yard. And yes, it can be found. One of the best sources for finding cheap fabric is at a quilter's garage sale. Now, our quilt guild, quilters will have fabric garage sales just before our guild meeting, and they will maybe be downsizing their fabric collection and wanting to get rid of a bunch. So they'll have these fantastic garage sales. And over the years, I have purchased quite a bit of that fabric, and it's helped build up my stash. Now, you can shop at garage sales and thrift stores or even auctions, but you really need to know, for me, you really need to know your fabrics, and you need to be sure you're buying quilt shop quality fabric. Now, I have heard of quilters getting large amounts of fabric at auctions, but just a note of caution when you buy things like fabric at an auction, you want to be sure that you closely inspect the fabric for damage from rodents, mold and mildew, just being stored for so long, and make sure that it is still good fabric. Now, you can also buy cheaper fabrics on sale with coupons at places like Joann's and Hobby Lobby. But again, you really just need to be sure you know what good quilt fabric is, what it looks like, what it feels like, and again, who the designers are, so that you don't purchase fabric that's not of good quality. Okay, the next category I want to talk about, I'm going to call it the budget-friendly category, because this is what I consider budget-friendly for me. And when I can find really good quilt shop fabric in this range, for me is $4 to $6 a yard, I think I've just got a pretty good deal, because that is typically anywhere from 40 to 65% off the regular quilt price. So one of the places that I'm able to purchase fabric like this is in the sale section of our local quilt shops, or on online quilt shops, or at online quilt shops. So let's talk a little bit about local quilt shops. Now, a lot of times quilt shops will have a remnant bin, and I just recently purchased some fantastic fabric. It was 50% off, and the lady who owned the quilt shop, when she got down to like a yard and a half, it was the end of the bolt, she just put it in her remnant basket, and I got some great fabric that I could use as blenders and backgrounds in that little remnant bin. And then also, I always check the clearance racks at quilt shops. Now, just a word of caution when buying fabric on sale. I don't purchase fabric just because it's on sale. I really need to have something in mind when I purchase the fabric, because I certainly don't want to bring it home and just store it. I want it to be fabric that I'm going to use. So this is kind of my strategy. I look for backgrounds. So that's a white on white or a cream on cream. And I always look for those. And I even will look in the Christmas fabrics that are on sale, because sometimes their backgrounds are whites or really light creams, and they don't always look like Christmas fabrics. So that's a great source. So keep that in mind when you're shopping in your local quilt shop. I always look for red and blue fabrics. I use a lot of those colors in my quilts, and if I find a nice piece of that, I will buy larger quantities of that if I think it's a really good deal. Also, I kind of keep a running list in my mind. Sometimes I put it on my phone or in my project planner notebook that I showed you earlier that I got from Sherry McConnell, and I'll have a list of the things that I need. Like recently I needed some blacks, I ran out of pinks, I just had a couple of purples, so I put those on my list of things that I needed to get. So those are all things I'm looking for when I am looking at sale items. Now, I would have to say I kind of steer clear of novelty prints that are on sale, simply because for me those end up sitting in my stash. And again, I don't want to waste money. I'm trying to save money. So I do try to buy fabrics that I'll be able to use. Oh yes, and you can also buy backing fabrics. So when I buy backing fabrics, I'm looking for neutrals like maybe a denim looking fabric or a tan type of fabric that I could use on the back of any quilt. The next category I want to talk about is fabric for which I pay full price. And yes, I do buy some fabric, I do buy fabric full price. And when I pay full price for a fabric, it's usually when there is a new fabric line that I really, really want and that I can afford, and I will pay full price for that. And sometimes I do get those in pre-cuts. Now, just a caution about purchasing pre-cuts. Pre-cuts are more expensive. They are. They just cost more per yard. For example, if you go into a quilt shop and you see those lovely little nuggets called fat quarters, because you know they're kind of addictive, and you want to pick up, say, 4. Well, you pick up 4 at $3.50 a fat quarter, you've just spent $14 a yard for fabric. Now, you did get a little bit of a variety, and I guess, you know, if you're willing to pay for the convenience of them already being pre-cut for you and purchasing smaller pieces to build your stash, you can do that. And sometimes pre-cuts save people money because they just get exactly what they need. They have for example, they may have a pattern that calls for a cake layer, or a pattern that calls for 4 charm packs, or a pattern that calls for a jelly roll. So you can save money that way. So just a word of caution on that, because pre-cuts do cost more when you calculate the cost. Also, you want to keep in mind that solids are cheaper than cotton prints, even when you buy them at a regular price. So solids are a nice way to add a good accent border or a binding, so you can keep that in mind. Now, I see a lot of solids on sale at a lot of the online stores from which I shop, so keep that in mind. When you're buying fabric online, you have to keep shipping in mind, so be sure you're looking at the shipping. Now, there are a lot of stores online that offer free shipping after you've purchased so much. So just watch the shipping. And sometimes, like recently, I wanted to order a rotary cutting mat, but it was exempt from the free shipping because it was an oversized package. So just be sure you're taking advantage of the free shipping and reading all the little details of shipping rates carefully. Okay, so the next portion of this video, I just want to share with you a few of my favorite places to purchase what I consider budget-friendly fabric. And my number one go-to online store for buying budget fabric is Hancock's of Paducah. And just a little disclaimer here, I do not receive any type of money or compensation at this point in time from any of the stores that I have visited with you about today. I don't have any affiliate links with them. None of them are sponsoring my videos. These are just places I wanted to share with you that I think are great for buying bargain fabric at. Now, Hancock's of Paducah does offer free shipping over for orders of $70 or more, so be sure you keep that in mind. If you're a little short on your fabric purchase and you need some batting, just throw batting, a thing of batting in there. We're all always needing batting. We are all always needing batting. Okay, now let me tell you why I like Hancock's Paducah. Number one, they have a large selection. Number two, they get new fabrics in their sale bin or clearance sections all the time. And number three, I have found some fantastic deals of fabrics that weren't even what I would consider old or fabric lines. So I really, really like that. They also have a program called Buy and Save More. So when you buy, say, I'm not sure I'm recalling this exactly, but this is just an example. For example, if you buy more than 10 yards, you get this percentage off. If you buy more than 15 yards, you get this percentage off. The more you buy, the more you save type program, and I do like that. Also, Hancock's of Paducah, when you sign up for their newsletter, you get a coupon for 10% off, which adds another 10% to your overall savings. And I really have had a great experience with their customer service. I haven't had any problems. They're helpful, they're friendly, and they've been really good to work with. Now, I'm going to show you an example of some of the fabric that I recently purchased at Hancock's of Paducah. Okay, so this is my recent purchase. Oh my gosh, I can just hear my friends chuckling about this huge purchase that I've made. This was an enormous purchase, but back earlier, or in the late part of 2020, I saw this fabric. It's titled Snow is Falling, and it's put out by Timeless Treasures. It is a flannel line, and I love flannels. And I saw this fabric quite some time ago, and I thought I would make some Christmas quilts with it, but it was $10.98 a yard, and it was going to be super expensive because I make big quilts, and I used the same fabric for the backing, so I knew it was going to be really expensive, and I decided no, that was kind of out of my budget, and I wasn't going to do it. So let me just tell you, for each of these four fabrics, and they are beautiful, luscious flannels, I paid $4.79 a yard for each of these. And then I purchased this one for $5.09 a yard. Now, I do have a plan for these. I'm going to make several ragtime quilts, and I'm actually going to get started on cutting these fabrics just hopefully this week. But you can see how much I saved. These are still online at some quilt shops for ranging from $10.45 to $10.98. And again, from here down, I spent $4.79, and this was $5.09 a yard. Now, to me, that's a bargain. That's something I can afford, and this was a point in time that I wanted to stock up because I will be able to make at least 5 quilts using this. And again, the ragtime quilts are the most requested quilts from my family members, so these are going to make great Christmas presents. Okay, now here's another example of Hancock's from Paducah and their fabrics. This is a fabric line put out by Quilted Treasures, and I love this fabric. This is called Curly Cues, and this is the white tone on tone. Oh my gosh, I love working with this fabric. I like the design. It's a great background fabric, and I recently just purchased a bunch on Amazon, and I paid $11.37 a yard. Now there was no shipping fees, but I loved it so much I was willing to pay a fuller price for it. Okay, now Hancock's of Paducah, I had put some of this in my shopping cart from Hancock's of Paducah, and it went on sale, and they notified me, and it was $6.99 a yard. And so I thought, oh, I think I'm going to order some of that. Well, I also had a 10% off coupon, so that pulled it down to $6.29 a yard. And this is like one of my favorite background fabrics, and I can use it with all kinds of quilts in the future. So they only had 3.5 yards, which is unusual because you can see how many yards of each of these that they had, and there was still some left. Yeah, I left a little bit. And in order to get the free shipping, I was needing batting to make these quilts with, so I went ahead and ordered some batting so that I got the free shipping too. And I think I ordered a little bit of black because I'm needing black for another project that I'm working on. But you can see how great that worked out. And I think you can understand why Hancock's of Paducah is my #1 source for buying bargain fabric. And again, you have to check that site frequently. I check it all the time. And just like finding this, well, actually I found this through an email, but I'm always looking at the fabrics on there because they change so quickly and they go fast. So you got to keep your eye on that online store. Another source for getting cheaper fabrics online is using the Connecting Threads website. Now, they're not quite as cheap, in my opinion, as like Paducah's is, but they do have quite a large selection. You could find some good blenders, backgrounds, backings, so take a look at that one. They do offer shipping for anything $65 and over, and you can shop by price on that site. Now, it's been a long time since I've ordered from Connecting Threads, so you'll just have to take a look and see what you think. Now, one quilt shop that I've been looking at online is called $5 a yard. Now, I haven't ordered anything from them, but I really do like their website and I check it frequently. I haven't found anything that I really want to order yet, but they do have a nice selection. They have a lot of the top designers. Riley Blake, Timeless Treasures, Moda. So check that one out. Now, not all the fabric is $5 a yard, and you want to be sure you're shopping on their clearance and sale section. They also have a last chance section, $5 and under, and then just their sale section. But check them all out and look at them frequently to see. And for that, I would say the average prices for the majority of their stuff is $5.99 to $6.99. Now, you can find some fabric above that on sale and a little bit under that price to sell. But again, they have a smaller selection, but I think that's really good fabric. And if I find something on there, I'm going to try that one out. Okay, so I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I hope you'll find some tips that you can use when buying fabric, quilt fabric on a budget. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Share with your friends. Always feel free to leave a comment. I love to get the comments. I look forward to the comments. And maybe you have a great place that you like to shop where you buy budget fabric that you'd like to share with us. If so, just leave that in the comments below. And until next time, have fun quilting.